Hey guys, welcome back to Trekyards. He's Commander
He's got a
Cockins.
Foley.
And what is Starfleet? It's the name of an episode. Strange New Worlds, Season 3, Episode 7.
It's funny when I make docs as part of my fan film world. I just released one, and there's been Stargate. There's a documentary in Stargate World for half an episode. And other thing is Babylon 5 one. First Trek doc. Pretty sure. First Trek doc.
Yes, yeah, I think so.
And I've done like 7. So you finally got there, Trek. Well done. So Stuart, what do you think of the first in-universe Star Trek documentary?
I thought this was fantastic. I love a little peek behind the curtain. This definitely gave that. And we got a cool new space alien, which was interesting and cool looking. I mean, there's a lot of really good stuff in this episode that I really enjoyed. I did think the documentarian guy he asked some questions that I found very off-putting, and did a few things that are a little bit sketchy, and it was at the halfway mark. I'm like, this guy's no good. But they kind of cleared that up at the end, and yeah, I think it was a fantastic episode. One of the better episodes of Strange New Worlds, probably right up there in my top 5, maybe top 3. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed it a lot.
And it's funny, I go back and watch how long the summary portions are. One episode, Stuart's summary was like 6.5 minutes, which is great, but I get so different thoughts. This, I think, is more streamlined. So the fact that you could summarize it in like under a minute, etc.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
How about you? I know you make the documentaries. So what did you think of this one?
Well, I liked it, but briefly back on your thing for a second. I knew you were either going to really like it or really not like it, because it's like with a horror movie or a rom-com, if you don't like doc format, you're going to say this is terrible, like with the musical, right? So I'm glad you do like it, because, yay. But some people are going to turn them off instantly just because of the format, right? For me, I'm glad I'd known that's what this was, because I felt like the teaser work was non-existent for a reason, so I was pleasantly surprised. I was kind of waiting for the hook for a good chunk of it, which there kind of was at the end, but the hook was that it's sort of a low-key hook. It wasn't like a big reveal. It was so that worked fine. But good acting, really well shot, potentially a bit too much shaky cam. If you didn't like Stargate Universe or shaky cam, you're going to hate this one because unnecessary, especially since, floating boy thing of good civilization, so you don't need to do this, but that's style, right? Worked fine for me, looked pretty. I love seeing the sets in the full box, not the anamorphic, and the sets were brighter, notably, more saturated. It felt far more like The Office, but in a good way, because that doesn't feel like a cheap, it's still expensive cameras done well. So this felt like more of a TV episode, but an expensive TV episode versus a cinema experience, which what the normal episodes are. But I mean, I got really good angles of the sets, of the lighting, really, really, really nice to see, like properly nice. Yay for Ortega's got something, or less. I thought that might be her episode, but shot less than I thought. It's really Uhura's episode. Yeah, pretty good. I mean, it felt very TOS mixed with TAS. Like the visuals they could do from TOS with the style of TOS. And I wouldn't say it surprised me very much. And I guess my biggest critique is that often when these sorts of stories introduce, everything's fresh, right? So the names of aliens and races, it helps when you introduce a character with them to link a character to a name or an alien race to a name. So I had no idea until 3/4 of the way through which name meant which race, because just saying it doesn't mean it goes in. So I was every time they're like, this device, I'm like, I don't know who that is. I wasn't able to follow that easy enough, because there wasn't like on the screen a picture of the alien race and a bio of them, so I could visualize a person, a race. That was severely lacking. So at the end, I'm like, are these the guys who made the thing or not? Oh, they are. Okay. That was certainly lacking for me. And given that the Starfleet knows these races, they could easily have done bios. I don't know why they didn't. So that was kind of, I wasn't lost, but I wasn't following it as closely as I think they could have done. But on second, third watches, it won't matter. Nor is it really about them anyway. So there you go. Those are my overall thoughts.
Well, I'm glad you liked it as well. I hope a lot of people like it, but yeah, I think a lot of people aren't into documentary style, and the shaky cam really didn't bother me. But I love documentaries. Me and Sylvia watch a lot of documentaries, so I loved that. And I mean, we got some confirmed information on the Constitution class in Strange New Worlds. 190,000 metric tons.
Saw that, did you?
Length of 442.6 meters. And a crew of 203, which we already knew, of course, but interesting. I love that was in there as well. I mean, this is for the civilian population that would be watching this, so they might know who the Lutani are, and so you don't really need to get into the explaining it aspect. But yeah, I thought, I liked all of those little aspects to it. Can I get into something I don't like, which is I kind of mentioned in my little preamble there, is the question, or not the question, the statement. So, were you close to anybody in Starfleet? Oh, just your roommate. Yeah. Well, she died on the Cayuga. Just, I want to get your reaction to that on camera. That was the douchiest thing I'd ever seen or heard in my life. Considering that they know each other and they're friends, it's not just a documentarian that's coming to someone's house. That really bothered me, and I thought this guy's an asshole for that. That bugged me. And then also recording her without her knowledge, which documentarians, they're like that, but that's fine. I don't know. What did you think about that aspect of it?
It's more important for the documentarians to tell the truth and to find the truth. And yes, they can then after the fact choose to edit it out, but so that's the point of them being there. If they're not there, then they're propaganda pieces, right? And it's good for Starfleet to be seen as human, that they're not just a military organization. So questions of, and at least they ground it with he was resentful for his sister's hurt injury. At least that grounded it, although he was pretty minimal, I think, in that regard, because it's a super interesting question to ask Pike. Have you seen someone die? Especially after, the Breen War that just happened, kind of, the Klingon War from a few years ago. This is a really horrible 5 years where millions have died. I mean, this is the worst period of the last few years. So, yes, that question is going to happen. And although, of course, Pike was out of the war, blah, blah, blah. The asking about, I assume he didn't know that she didn't know her friend died in the Saratoga, whatever it was called.
Oh, I think he did. I think it's implied with the way he asked.
I don't know how he'd possibly...
He didn't ask, he just stated.
Well, I don't know how you'd possibly know that. Either way, he wouldn't know if she didn't know, and he would assume that she would know because she's an officer who has friends. Like, if that's her one friend, she'd have kept up with her. That makes sense. So I don't think he thought, gotcha. He just thought, oh, you knew, right? Oh, you didn't. Oh, crap. Could have done a reaction shot of him, but he wasn't really in it very much. So I didn't think he was gotchaing her. He could have pushed it further. How do you feel about being killed in a Breen attack? But he didn't. Obviously, he could have edited it out, but like that, I don't think he knew. At least how I took it. And filming without a consent, I mean, the cameras are always on. The douchey thing was to have it behind a bookshelf. Then you can record without a consent in terms of it's just flying around because they're always filming, but hiding it means you're hiding camera. Although in theory he has access to the security camera, so she's always being filmed anyway. So, and given his access to that, it's sort of a moot point anyway. Which have now officially canonized. There are cameras everywhere. You know what I mean? Every
canonized in court martial.
Well, every show they say, oh well, who did it? Just go to the footage.
Also, his questions for Lon, like, what makes you a good security officer? What's it feel like to kill someone? I just thought they were very inappropriate, and the way they were presented didn't work for me. You can ask those questions in a better way.
How would you ask it in a better way?
Well, being head of security, sometimes you might have to do something like actually kill someone. How does that feel? How does that make you feel? Instead of, how's it feel to kill someone? It's douchey. I'm sorry. So I think, and I've seen a lot of documentaries, like I said with Sylvia, and yeah, they are like that, but they don't know the person. He's spent time with this crew. Like, I don't know. It just felt a little out of place to me. But
he acted in a way that I don't care if I'm invited back or not. I'm here to get the genuine scoop truth. And if I never come back, that's okay. Which is a bold way of doing it. I mean,
what's how most documentaries that they come in, they interview you, and then you never see them again. They don't know you. There's no prior, hanging out with you kind of vibe. So I just think it was a very indelicate way that he handled it.
Especially as the death question, it's not the same losing people that you know than losing a giant space not whale butterfly that you met an hour ago. So if that was the parallel they were drawing, it's not a particularly useful parallel.
No. That's not what he was doing.
But that's what I mean. Like, if the story wise, right, in terms of the narrative, if that's the link to that, there was no payoff for me on that. It was just he was just saying things to say things, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which is fine. Just although I love the close ups. All the different really good for reference of people's faces. But seeing the subtle acting and Benga being pushed about, being a bit of a whatever, and the fact they throw out, no, he's part of a tag team. No. Although odd, no Scotty and no Pellier at all. I mean, it's already stuffed with characters, but it's odd that, Pellier you'd think would have a unique perspective being very old and Scotty being very young. Odd their omission. I'm guessing they're doing something else, because not even slightly include them.
I didn't even realize that they were missing until you just said that, to be honest. But
Well, Pellier's been a minor part, but Scotty's been a huge part. Small thing, just it was odd to the actual de-inclusion. So what do you think about the actual story then? For what I take of it is that there's a moon planet and the aliens live there and they harnessed a space butterfly in the seas and made it a killer.
Well,
and it can now fly in space because reasons, and they're going to move it across the solar system to another planet to start attacking people, I guess. Because originally when I watched it, I thought that was native to the other planet.
no.
But why? I mean, they don't say why because it's classified, but they're actually taking it, a nuclear weapon to a bad place. You don't think they're going to use it? It's like you're taking a weapon to a war zone. I mean, that was the point, at least, I guess. If that was a story, I don't know, right? Again, it's kind of... The names are not useful at the start, right? They need more setup of who was who. What do you think? What do you take from that?
Well, it's odd because they say these creatures live on this, in the water, and they're at the point of evolution where they can fly in space. So they've managed to... Yeah, I thought it was not very well explained, and I have to go back and rewatch it for sure.
Yeah,
but...
Good.
And I assume that the weapon attack that it has is that radiation burst. Again, it's never really clarified, like, how that was intended to be used. Like, you take it above the planet and just start... I don't know, right? So...
Classic weapon is just an energy force going padoom, right? I mean, put that near a battlefield and everyone goes flying. I mean, their shields went down from 100% to 40% at medium range. That thing could take out
weapons
anything.
fire. It can take out ships. So yeah, it would be a ship killer, I would assume, not necessarily a planet-wide thing, but
yeah, but just even a battle. But it was I wouldn't say even unique. Like the first the animated series, right? Big space creature, which the team that did Discovery, which is the same VFX team here, have always been A-star with creatures, and it was truly a cinematic level creature. It's just a giant butterfly. It wasn't particularly imaginative, but it looked beautiful, wonderfully designed. 10 out of 10, right? Absolutely lovely.
yeah, the effects were fantastic in this. I really enjoyed seeing those.
Well, it helped they didn't have to have any flybys because everything's sort of in a perspective. So it was actually a very, very, very cheap episode.
Yeah.
I'm guessing they saved money for other episodes because it was a very cheap one to film. Cool. And then no new sets, right? So yeah, very easy.
Yeah, and we got some external shots of the Enterprise, like hull camera or whatever it was called. So yeah, those would come in handy in a lot of circumstances, in a lot of episodes, over all the episodes of Star Trek. But yeah, it's fine. I love all the, like, all this stuff was declassified, from Starfleet for transparency and all that. Like, it was very well put together, little documentary style, and I really appreciate that. I liked all the camera angles.
Yeah, some really creative ones, and yet simple. But they rethought the set in a way. Why would you ever think put a camera in Pike's armchair, armrest? You wouldn't think that, but it was just the way it was done was very good. But it's not natural thinking. But something like above the ceiling, looking down was very good, and yeah, whole varied of angles. It was odd though that, so the docs I do, as you know, for the audience, are narrator led. So we have a Memory Alpha lead historian who narrates, who's also there on the ground interviewing people. So she gives both the outer perspective of what the story is, but also having talked to the people, and she can give anecdotes within that, right? I was mildly surprised how little Mr. Ortega's had a presence, which I actually liked, that his ego wasn't such that he was the presenter, he was the main guy, he was barely in it, and even when he had to be in shots because the camera's literally the only angle they have, he was almost a guest character in his own episode. So I was actually kind of impressed that, even if he's trying to make a point with the doc, he was not ego-driven to actually be in it as a character. What do you think about that? Because that's a very interesting way of telling the doc story.
That's the way a lot of documentaries are. Like, sometimes you don't even see the guy doing it. Other times it's like you see him in the car talking about where he's going next or whatever. Like, there's different styles. I thought this was a good blend of that. A lot of documentaries have a lot of narration, a lot of voiceover. This had some of that. I think it was very well balanced, honestly. I never even really considered that until you just mentioned that either, that he's not really in it per se. So yeah, I liked it. I thought it was good.
Yeah, it would have been fine for him to do it more, but fair to say it was a stuffed episode, right? It was dense with stuff. To have him also add another perspective would have been even more to do.
Well, you have to be impartial as a documentarian.
You hope.
Yeah.
especially if you're
So
trying to take on the establishment of, the Starfleet, which is the big thing. Which was interesting, though. I don't know if it's intentional, but at the end, when because a lot of docs are just showing you what happens. Obviously, they can edit around things to make moments last longer or the feeling right. But if you take it as literal what doc is showing us, I found it really interesting. They intentionally kept in both the script writers, the editor of the documentary, and him, who the at the end when the aliens are like, you can't take this away from us because this is our last, not our, a big thing we need. And Starfleet strong arms him by threatening, saying, "You don't want to make an enemy of us." Which felt kind of mob bossy to me. Like, you're one planet, bro. We have an entire space fleet, and we are telling you that a planet in your space with a creature, it might even be your planet, although that again pulls into question that early bit, I don't know. Your planet with you have sovereignty of whatever, with a creature that you've worked on for maybe 100 years, you're done. And we will force you to stop. That means you will fight us, because force is based on weapons, unfortunately. So if you try and say no, we will forcibly shoot you, stun you, whatever. And even if that means the war, it's like if someone said you can't use a nuke, and then World War II went on for another 20 years and killed billions, right? Millions, billions. That felt like an end to me of like, wow, we're really strong arming them to that degree. I have no feeling of the right or wrong thing to do, but tonally, what do you think? Because that was a really big moment for me that I noticed. Did it even stick out to you? What did you think?
there's a line of dialogue that says, yeah, because he says, what separates a federation from an empire? Because both colonize. Like, he goes through it to make sure that people are aware that he's trying to find the answer as to what's the difference between the Federation and just an empire, right? Both impose their laws and doctrines on others. And that's what I think that what you're talking about in particular with Pike saying that Pike is still in the chain of command. He has to follow orders. And that's always the fine line that Starfleet skirts, I think, is the fact that they do want to do good, but doing good for one person or one planet might not look that way from another planet's perspective. So, but they're basically telling these people, we don't want you turning these creatures into super weapons, because the alien had said, my children are all unaltered or whatever, and Pike made the promise that, oh yeah, we won't, which is very Starfleet. So yeah, I like that it was addressed at the beginning, like, what's the difference between an empire and a federation, and they kind of go through like, both do this, both do that. And then at the end to have that hit, I didn't feel it was mob bossy. That's Pike. He's the voice box for Starfleet in this instance. And it's a difficult, I think that's the point of the documentary, to show that it's a difficult line to walk. And there's no right or wrong answers, honestly, at the end of the day.
I mean, mob boss is just a sense of force, right? It's just that, this is your planet, your sovereignty, you have no choice. This big organization you can't possibly fight says no. So it's like, what if one small country says, we want to do this, and then America says no? It's like, oh, well, I guess we're stopped. It just is all odd, right? But again, that's perspective, right? If we were telling the story from Pike's perspective and it was much more clear cut, we wouldn't think twice. But because the documentary kind of shows not necessarily everything, but it's more abstract, right? And I think maybe intentionally they're not, because context is king. That's always for kings. There you go, Lorca. So if we did, as a doc or as an audience, know who the aliens were, who they were fighting, if one side is clearly the aggressor, if we had any context there, because in this version all we got was a guy right at the end being both aggressive and begging, that it could be from desperation or from arrogance. So that medium, if let's be brutally honest, if because we're kind of blue, right? If the other race was red with horns, the subconscious says they're probably bad, and they speak like this, then you wouldn't think. You know what I mean? So it really tricky to do these sorts of things. So the fact we're deconstructing it makes sense, but it's interesting, right? It's interesting.
Yeah, I'm glad we didn't get into the weeds on the political aspect of it, like, because it's like Vietnam War, right? Like, was it right to get involved and send in all our troops and equipment and all that? Like, it opens up a whole can of worms. I'm glad we didn't get into the political aspect of that, because I think that would have bogged down a lot of the story. But it also would have introduced that interesting moral dilemma that Star Trek always does. Is it right to help this one group of people because they're being attacked by supplying them with weapons or helping them get weapons? It's that whole thing, and the Star Trek's addressed this issue multiple times with arms dealers and stuff. So yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad they did it the way they did, and there might be other little clues when I rewatch it, but I think it was well handled, and it's good that we kind of, not really sure what's going on in that regard.
Well, because it re-adds the question of the start. Starfleet was telling them to bring this weapon, which they do call weapon, to this planet, and again, you can put your head in the sand, but it's like you're taking a weapon to a war zone. I wonder what's going to happen. And Starfleet was complicit or was telling them to... again, interesting.
Well, when he asks Ortegas in the turbo lift, he doesn't ask, she just answers. They're at war. What do you think we're, bringing them? Well, lots of things. Medical supplies, food, aid. I don't know. It's not always weapons, the default, but the way the episode is, the documentary set up, is obviously that's what it is, right? So I didn't think it was a default answer.
Well, no, exactly. I assume medical supplies.
Especially Starfleet,
Yeah, well, they were bringing physically one thing, they were towing physically another. Ooh. And this is why, when I write the docs that I make, I love the fact that you could be wrong on purpose. By that I mean, especially, Trek, we know where Spock goes, whatever. So they didn't pay into that too much, but they could have write more of that. But if you're we just released a Star Trek 3 doc about the Excelsior, and so we know as the audience know what happened on board the Enterprise, but the doc, they weren't there. The crew of the Enterprise aren't going to tell publicly, probably. And also there's both supposition and then the official record. So in this doc, they can't say certain things because either, they can't say weapons, they can't say whatever, but it's there, but it's not there, but it's what do the crew know, which they played into a bit. Not quite as much. I was kind of expecting her to maybe push back a little bit more, potentially. Fine she didn't, but she could have. But, who knows what, why, when. And so, because the filmer guy, Ortegas, never saw the answer, we have no hope of getting the answer, right? Which is effective if unsatisfying in certain ways, but it's just, you don't get the bird's eye perspective because there is none. There's only his perspective, which is just filming it.
Yeah, Pike did say, this information is on need-to-know basis. So you need to know.
Yep.
And then later, the whole conversation of... There's Una and Pike talking to Starfleet, and all the Starfleet lines were redacted. So just one side of the conversation. But it set up that whole, they have their orders as well. They can't just... And then the question comes, have you ever disobeyed an order? And Pike's like, well, I can honestly say that I can't answer that. So it was really well crafted to show both sides of it. They might not agree with what's going on, but they have their orders. And again, it's that fine line that I was talking about earlier. It also implied that Pike sometimes disobeys orders when he doesn't agree with them.
Because I'm always very keen with my docs to not have Starfleet lie. I make a huge point of that because that, even if you mislead a little bit or if you don't tell the whole truth, lying is a line that you're meant to be trained to be better from. So Pike doesn't lie, and I appreciate that. For me, it sounds like such a small thing, but for me, that's important, not lying. So I appreciate how they handled that. Although, of course, obviously it's intentional. Mbenga not lying and just saying, I don't recall. You don't believe him for a single second. Right?
Well, it's anytime anybody answers that way, it's like, yeah, you know.
Yeah.
You know.
But it's just funny. It's like, yes, then.
But he didn't say that, so you're just surmising.
It's for the courts to decide. No, it's just, it's interesting when they played those. Oh, and also I just remembered, I really liked, because I don't know if they were deliberately trying to pitch a La'an action movie, but tight leather shooting, which is with a distinctly different makeup. She felt a little bit different. Felt like almost the Underworld, the vampire movie. Like she's auditioning for an action film that she totally does. Oh, that's okay.
Looks like Artiga's building a hover bike or something in her quarters. Yeah, there's a few peeks of people's quarters in this, horizontal trinkets and stuff as well, which was interesting.
Not as much as they could have, of course. Could have more, but that's all these things, right? We like things.
Things that make us go.
Yeah. But no, it was different, obviously.
Overall, I think a fantastic episode, and it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out on a rewatch.
Yeah. Because I don't think there's going to be a ton of things I didn't see.
Yeah.
If that makes sense. It feels like gentle, straightforward, logical. I don't think I'm going to be like, oh my god, I never saw that. It's like, no, I feel like I'm going to have seen that, which is fine.
But if you want to get our, feel for after our second review watch, check us out later today in our complete review and breakdown of this episode at 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
And you do want to.
You do want to. Anyway.
I'll briefly last say, though.
Oh.
Part of me was waiting for Dr. Nilsson to show up.
Of course. You were going to say that.
But it wasn't a Memory Alpha documentary, so it doesn't count. It was a civilian piece. So luckily, I was like, oh. Although it'd be funny to re-edit that to add Nelson. Because you could do that, couldn't you? Just the whole piece. Because there's not that much music, because it's a doc. Oh, it'd be so funny to take the whole thing verbatim and just add her bits in between. I'm not doing it. That's ridiculous. Nope.
But guys, comment down below what you thought about this episode. I'm going to use my Jedi mind powers to make you subscribe to the channel as well. And click the notification bell icon to all so you don't miss any content from us, whether it be a documentary style format or not. I mean, Trekyards is all kind of documentary style format in a way. But anyway, make sure you click the notification bell icon so you can join us for not only edited content, but lives. Like I said, later today. Come and join us.
And if you want to support what we do here directly, because we do need direct support, and lets us go. We are smart, we go, help us go by giving us the red cannon or whatever the hell that thing was in the episode. No, support us via Patreon if you can. It's monthly, or join the channel on YouTube, also monthly. You'll be in the ship video in the fleet at the end. Wow, so exciting. It's amazing. Or you can do one-time donations by super chatting on our live. Super said lives, join them, super chat, say hi, or super thanks on any video in 10-year catalogue. That's crazy. Or PayPal, trekyards@hotmail.com. Thank you in advance.
So until next time, which hopefully be at the live, come and join us. He's Commander Cocking.
He's Foley.
Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.